Hello, and welcome to the What's Out There podcast. I'm your host, Susan MacArthur. Today we're going to talk about the economy of space, and my guest is Greg Sudarski, a researcher for the Space Foundation. Welcome, Greg.
Thanks, it's great to be here.
Now, when most people think about the economy, they are not making a connection to outer space. Rather, they're thinking about interest rates and the price of goods in the earthbound economy. However, for 2019, the global space economy was estimated to be worth over 423 billion US dollars. That's comparable to the GDP of Nigeria.
Yes, the size of the space industry is likely to be surprising for some people. Perhaps this is because we've seen such tremendous growth in recent years. Did you know that we've seen a 73% increase in global space activity over the last decade?
Wow, no, I didn't. What exactly makes up the space economy?
Well, the OECD breaks the space economy into three categories. The first is the upstream sector. That includes fundamental and applied research, scientific and engineering support, and design and manufacturing of equipment that makes up the space infrastructure, and perhaps the most well-known element, space launch. The second category is called the downstream space sector. This covers the daily operations of space infrastructure which directly relates to the activities on Earth. This infrastructure supports consumer markets like GPS-enabled devices and satellite TV. The third category is space-derived activities in other economic sectors. This relates to technology transfers of products and services that were invented for space but are now used in other areas such as automotive or medical industries. Water and air purifiers are one specific example.
That's broader than I expected. Still, I'm surprised by the level of growth because I thought that government spending on space had fallen over the past few decades. Once NASA ended the space shuttle program, interest in space appeared to have diminished. Except, of course, among the likes of billionaires like Richard Branson and Elon Musk. They've always seemed to me like rich kids with lots of money to play around with rockets.
Well, actually, interest in space is growing because countries that you might not expect to have space programs like Luxembourg, Angola, or Bangladesh actually do. As of 2019, 88 countries have space programs. More and more countries are recognizing that space assets bring social economic benefits, and they want a share of the growing commercial revenues generated by the space industry.
Again, I say, wow, I had no idea that so many countries were investing in space. Is everyone trying to send people to the moon?
No, that's not the case at all. The majority of the growth in the space economy has occurred in the commercial sector, with the lion's share, 75%, in satellite technology and downstream applications for consumers. You don't need programs aimed at human spaceflight or launch capabilities to be active in space.
What's driving this growth?
Well, lower costs, lower barriers to entry, and increasingly powerful applications that can be deployed on smaller satellites.
How does all this activity affect government space agencies?
Well, if we take the US as an example, President Reagan signed the Commercial Space Flight Act of 1984, which made commercial launches legal for the first time. And under each of the following presidents, NASA's monopoly on spaceflight has decreased. The agency's directives became increasingly focused on science and deep space travel, while the private industry was encouraged to take over the day-to-day business of transport to Earth orbit. In 2011, NASA began awarding contracts to private companies for resupplying the International Space Station. This is where the billionaires come in, like Elon Musk and his company SpaceX. In 2012, the SpaceX Dragon was the first private spacecraft to dock with the ISS. Another private company, Orbital ATK, followed soon after, and now both companies regularly resupply the ISS. This is considered a big win for NASA. The shuttle program cost about $4 billion a year, but these resupply missions run closer to $50 million a pop.
But what about manned space flight?
Well, at some point, Dragon is expected to carry actual people to the ISS and perhaps beyond, but that hasn't happened yet. To date, only one privately developed craft has carried a person to space. This was Spaceship One, developed by a company called Scaled Composites. In 2004, the first private astronaut blasted this rocket-powered plane into a suborbital trajectory. Only just kissing space, but it counts. Then Virgin Galactic teamed up with Scaled Composites to form the Spaceship Company. They plan to turn Spaceship Two into a regular space tourism vessel. However, that hasn't happened yet.
So, why is private manned space flight taking so long?
It's simple: money. Almost all private companies are driven by the profit motive, and outside of the distant dream of space tourism, there isn't currently much money in sending people into space. At least compared to launching satellites. That's where the profit is for the moment. And as a result, there are many private companies in the business of slinging satellites into orbit. Private industry is also eyeing the heavens for their vast natural resources. In 2015, President Obama signed the U.S. Commercial Space Launch Competitiveness Act. This allows U.S. companies to own materials extracted from space. Asteroid mining seems likely to drive the next wave of private enterprise because the potential profits are astronomical.
But national space agencies have done incredible things. So, is their role diminishing even for the big, low profit stuff?
Well, there appears to be a new model emerging for some of these moonshot ventures. And here I'm talking about private funding by idealistic billionaires. Elon Musk is getting the most press now. He seeded SpaceX with cash from his first project, PayPal. Now that SpaceX has a working heavy launch vehicle with reusable boosters, Musk is eyeing colonies on Mars and beyond. But Jeff Bezos, the founder of Amazon and his Blue Origin company, is neck and neck in the whole re-landing rockets thing. In 2015, his New Shepard rocket performed the first successful vertical landing after a spaceflight. And Spaceship One was solely funded by Microsoft co-founder Paul Allen, while its successor, Spaceship Two, is now owned by billionaire Richard Branson's Virgin Galactic. Then there's Russian billionaire Yuri Milner with his breakthrough Starshot program. His seed funding may put the first robotic probe in another star system.
Wait. But is this private billionaire route the way we want to go? Is it okay for these important decisions about the use of space to be handed over to individuals and private companies?
Well, there's arguments on both sides. On one hand, private industry is less constrained by politics and public opinion. The last few US presidents have each ordered NASA to redefine its goals at some level. First, it's Mars, then it's back to the moon, then Mars, then the moon again. Massive human effort is wasted every time a large program is scrapped, often for poorly informed political reasons. Government agencies also are a little more constrained by public opinion. For example, the Space Shuttle program was shut down for years after the Challenger disaster. Private companies can afford to take more risks. For example, SpaceX estimated that its Falcon rocket had a 50-50 chance of blowing up on the launch pad. Musk hit that launch button anyway. And Virgin Galactic Spaceship Two is still forging ahead even after the fatalities of a test flight crash and a tank explosion. Aerospace billionaires see themselves as the new Wright brothers and see risk and sunk investment as necessary for true innovation. And they want to move quickly. They want to move quickly, not necessarily to turn a profit, but to see the fruits of their labors before they die.
But again, isn't it rather dangerous to rely on rocketeer billionaires for this type of development? What happens if they aren't around to see their visions through? NASA has been around for 60 years, despite issues with politics and public opinion. And its motto is, for the benefit of all, not just for billionaires and investors.
It's true that when space programs built by such big personalities as Elon Musk and Richard Branson are eventually taken over by their company's boards of directors, they may not be as idealistic about space. The profit motive, again, may become the most important issue, and that may be what influences future developments in space.
For something as important as space, which offers so much potential benefit for humankind, should commercial interests be the main driving force for development? Aren't governments better placed to make decisions about how space should be developed?
That's a difficult question to answer. We don't yet have a governing body for space. The United Nations has an Office for Outer Space Affairs, but they're not a governing body. The current basis for international law in space is the 1967 Treaty on the Peaceful Uses of Outer Space. So there's much work still to be done in the area of space law.
Well, this has all been really interesting, but I'm afraid it's all we have time for today. Thanks so much, Greg, for contributing to this podcast.
You're very welcome.
Bye for now.